Good afternoon, class. How are you guys doing? I hope you guys are well and I hope you're having a wonderful week. So, this is just a recap of everything we did last week because of what happened to the recording. And I hope you guys can hear me clearly. I'll try to be as loud and then as slow and also as explanatory as possible. It's really unfortunate that the sound did not play in the audio. I just fixed it now and I'm sorry that it's not getting to you earlier, which is why we are going to be postponing our test and exam because of what happened today. So let's just start because I can't even, this is a lot of stress for me already. So let's just start. So last week we discussed about ECG interpretation, right? And then since we already learnt every other thing apart from ECG interpretation. And the reason why we are actually here is to learn ECG interpretation logo. But then I had to take you through every other thing because without knowing those things, you can't understand the ECG interpretation. It's just going to be like I'm speaking French or Chinese. So now I mentioned in the class that the best way to interpret an ECG is to do it step by step. Now there are how many things? Rate, rhythm, cardiac axis, P wave, PR interval, QRS, ST, QT, T wave, U wave, and then other signs. These are the things that you need to be able to fully interpret an ECG as the cardiac physiologist that you aspire to be. These are the parameters that you need to interpret an ECG very, very well. So now last week we discussed about rate and rhythm, and that's what we're going to be recapping now. Just rate and rhythm. Let's just move right in. Now rate. I told you that the rate rhythm. Rate is just simply your heart rate, right? And then your rhythm is just simply your heart rhythm. The normal heart rate for a normal adult human is 60 to 100 beats per minute, right? And then I now told you that lead 2 is the best lead to look for your rate and your rhythm. And you already know where your lead 2 is. That's the far end, the down part of your ECG strip. You see it just lonely there in the ECG strip. So lead 2 is the best strip to look for your ECG. Now for your rate, sorry. Now to calculate your rate, the formula is just for a regular rhythm. And now we now went to rhythm first because it's when you know regular and irregular rhythm that you'll be able to, know which rate you calculate for it. Now that's why we'll be going to the rhythm now. Now your rhythm is simply your heart rhythm now. And then lead 2 is also the commonly used lead for rhythm. There are three types of rhythm. There's regular rhythm, there's irregular, this regular, irregular, and then there's what we call regular irregular. Okay, so we have three: regular, irregular, and then regular irregular. And we're going to be looking at some parameters. Why is it regular? Why is it irregular? How do you recognize if it is regular or irregular or regular irregular? Now this PDF is just the things that are not in your PowerPoint slide. That's why I had to create another Word document for that. Now for types of, I told you regular, rhythm, irregular, and then this is the regular irregular for those starting hear the pronunciation clearly. So regular rhythm is also called the sinus or normal rhythm, something that is regular, it is okay, it is normal, all right. So that's just basically what we call a sinus or a normal rhythm. And then the criteria is that the RR interval must be consistent, right? RR interval has to be consistent. And what do we mean by RR interval being consistent? Let's go to this now. Let's just open, let this thing load. Okay, so R interval being consistent, what does it mean? It simply means that this space between two R's, this is an R interval, this R and this R, the number of boxes between these two R's is the RR interval. The space between this one R and the other R is RR interval. Now, what do I mean by it has to be consistent? I mean that it has to be the same. That means the space between two R, these two must be the same as the space between these two, same as this, and same as this, and same as this. So if you study this one, let's count how many boxes are here now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then let's count on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not really up to 5, but then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Shey you see the space between two R's is the same all through the lead. That's just what we know what we call RR interval being consistent. Now that is one criteria. So another criteria is that coming. Another criteria is also that your P wave must have a QRS coming after it. Your P wave must always have a QRS coming after it. Now let me show you what I mean. Because you know normally the after P wave normally is QRS complex, right? And so there are now issues where we have multiple P waves. That is irregular reading. For regular, after one P wave, the next thing you must see is a QRS complex. Let this picture load so I can show you what I mean. Let's not reading. Let's use this. Now this is what I mean. This is your P wave and this is your QRS complex and then your T wave. But yeah, now look, after your P wave is then coming a QRS complex just immediately after it, right? Now this there are now cases where you can have, let's say after this P wave now, you had another P wave, then you had the QRS complex. The fact that that first P wave did not carry a QRS complex coming after it makes it irregular. Alright, so I told you here that let's now I told you here that QRS complex must be preceded by P wave and then P wave must be followed by QRS complex. Then I mentioned afterwards that it is more of what P wave being followed by a QRS complex. Just imagine the case of that irregular that I told you that let's say there are two P waves coming after this P, you had another P and then one QRS complex. You will not say that because that second P had a QRS complex coming after it, then it's a regular reading. No, the fact that the first P wave did not have a QRS complex coming after it makes it not regular. Okay, now that is just what you need to know about regular reading. Now let's move to irregular reading. Something that is not regular is going to be irregular. It's just the directly opposite. So irregular reading, the criteria for that is that the PR interval, the IR intervals, they are not consistent, and then there are multiple P waves. So let's just look at some. Let me see if this. Okay, it's not here. Let's go through something else. Let me look for the. I'm trying to. Tó. Kí ni gbogbo eléyìí báyìí? Sorry, I don't know what the hell is going on with this stuff. What's my business? What is new, uncle? So let's just irregular reading ECG. Now let's look at some images that has to do with that irregular reading, so that you can know what I'm saying. Because there are actually different types of irregular reading. Just let it load. So we'll continue. Alright, so here it is. Let's just check out some. No, this is it. Let me try to zoom it for you to see. So now, this is what we call an irregular region. I told you that it is just simply opposite of regular, right? Now, this let's look at this space now. Let's look at the RR interval first. The space here, you see that it's wider than this one, and then this one is thinner than this one. Okay, that's just what I mean by the RR interval is not consistent, right? It's not the same. It's really obvious, and this is the same way you're going to see it on the ECG. It's really obvious that it is not consistent. And now you will have multiple periods. Let's look at this lead here. After this one is not even showing I think this should be like no. This is not showing that multiple periods there like I want it to. I'm coming. Let me see. It's not really showing that this thing. Okay. Ah, okay. Yes, this is what I'm trying to say. I think we even sent it on the group that time. So yeah, it has loaded. Let's just go to our irregular reading. And this is it now. This is regular and irregular. See the obvious difference. This regular now, P wave, QRS, RR interval consistent. Look at this one now. Look at the space between the RR here and look at the one between here. This one is wider than this one. And then let's look at this P wave. You can see that they are multiple. They are too fast. They are beating in a chaotic way. The HY is beating in a very very fast way. That is one, and also it is chaotic, which is why the P waves are multiple. All right, so that's just basically the difference between them. Now let's now look at regular irregular, as the name implies, right? Regular irregular, that means one is regular and one is irregular. One criteria is regular and one criteria is what is irregular. Let's just look at, let me show you what I meant there. And usually what really happens is that the RR interval is going to be consistent while there are going to be multiple periods. So that's sure what happens in a regular irregular rhythm. The RR interval is usually consistent, but then there will be multiple P waves. Or the RR intervals should be inconsistent and then the P waves should be okay. Let me check. Let's check it here. Regular, irregular. Oh no, not this one. This one is not showing it well. Regular, irregular. Regular, irregular is a trial filter. I'm coming. Regular, a trial filter. Mm. Sorry, let me just. I'm not seeing what I want to see here. Let me check for this thing. A trial filter. This is actually an example of a regular irregular rhythm. Um, something like something like this. Let's check this one. So now if you're looking at this image now, you can detect that the RR interval is consistent. But then there are multiple peaks. See these wavy lines. Let me show you from the PDF so that you'll be able to get what I'm trying to say very well. Let me show you from here. So yeah, just give all this reading this thing. We're going to come back to that later. Now, look at it now. If you watch this ECG close, you said the RR interval is consistent. But check these wavy lines. This one's just, see now, after T wave here, you can see you are having two P waves. Two P waves, and it's supposed to be one. That's why I was not explaining that time that after, oh my god, after one P wave that you are supposed to have QRS complex here. You now had another one and then before the QRS will go. So the fact that this first one did not have a P wave, it did not have a QRS complex coming after it, that makes it irregular. And because the RR interval is consistent, which is a criteria for regular, that makes it what? Regular. And also be careful not to mistake this your T wave for P wave. Alright. So that is just what we need to know about regular and irregular reading. Let's continue. So now these are just the these are just this is just the summary of the criterias. So let's just move back. Now that we can recognize normal reading, right? Let an regular, irregular, and regular, irregular reading. Let's go back to how to calculate the rate. Now, the formula for calculating a rate when the reading is regular is different from the one for calculating when it is irregular. Alright. So now that was why I had to go back to take you on how to recognize if a reading is regular or irregular to be able to calculate the rate. Now this is just a formula for calculating regular reading. This is the formula. The rate is 300 over the number of big squares between the RR interval and then 1500 over the number of small squares between the RR interval. So this is just a basic one. Now I said 1500. If we're calculating the rate in this place now, first we need to know that whether we're using big squares or small squares. But I'll advise you use small squares because that way you'll be able to count all the other small boxes that sometimes now, like this one now, not even this one, this one now, there's still some small boxes that it was not enough to make it a big box. So it's just better use a small box in order to be more accurate. So this is just it. If you count the boxes between this place now, you get that it is 15 small boxes as they already said. So that's 1500 over 15. Or how many big boxes? Three big boxes. That's 300 over 3. That's just the very simple way to calculate your rate if the reading is regular. And let's move to some examples and then practice some things here. I'm not doing this thing again. Let's just I'm trying to so regular reading. Let's check so that we'll be able to check the okay. Let's use this one. We can just simply use the big boxes there because I think this one is really clear. So this is it. Okay, I think we should use the small boxes. This is like 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 20 because it's 5 small boxes in one. So that is 20 plus this 5 here, 25 plus this. I think it should be about 3 or 4. Let's just say that's 28. So that's just going to be 1500 over what? Over 28. And then someone asked me that how many decimal places are you going to round it up to? Then I said 2 decimal places. Or better still, um you can round it up to the nearest whole number. Okay, since even the machine is going to report it in whole number. So you can just round to the whole number or 1 or 2 decimal places. So yeah, that's just all about calculating the reading if calculating the rate if the reading is regular. Now for the one that is now not that is now irregular, this one is a bit complex and I don't know. I sent you guys an handwritten note. Let me check it. ECG class. So yeah, let me check the media. So. Um, for those that didn't attend the class, I sent some redeems to also practice apart from the one that we just did online. And so you can check the group files for it or check through the lessons of that day from the email that they first sent down to the end. But we're going to cover everything in here. So I said how to calculate the rate if the redeem is irregular. If you can't see this very well, you can just check it from your notes. So from your group, Jerry, because the image is on the group. So the step one is to determine how many seconds trip it is. And how do you do that? You count the number of boxes, large boxes in the two, from the first to the last. Let's go back here. In fact, let me go and look for irregularity. Irregular. No, I even have it. The PDF is here. No. You count the number of boxes from the first to the last. From this one, like this 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So you are counting. This one now we have 30 big boxes. That is the first thing. So after counting the number of what large boxes in two, if it is 30, like we got in this one now, I told you earlier during our previous classes that what one large box in an ECG strip equals to 0.2 seconds, right? Now, if one large box is 0.2 seconds, 30 large box is going to be equals to 30 times 0. That is 6 seconds. So it is a 6-second strip. 30 large boxes that you counted times 0.2. If it's 50 times 0.2, if it's 100 times 0.2. Okay. Sorry, excuse me. So now if it's 20 large boxes, it's going to be what? 20 times 0.2, which is 4 seconds. That's how many second strip it is. So for the 30 large boxes, we have 6-second strips. For 20 large boxes, 4-second strip. Now for step 2 is to count the number of R waves in lead 2. Now let us go back to that lead and count the number of R waves that are there. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 R waves. Let's go back to our guideline. So he said if it is 8 R waves like we counted now, the number of R waves, the formula go is the number of R waves in how many second strip times Y. And now we already know that it is what? 8 R waves in a what? 6-second strip. Now how do we get Y? Let's continue. So now I said that if it is a 6-second strip, right, as we got that time, x equals to 6, yes, and to get y, as the heart rate is measured in what beats per minute and 60 seconds make 1 minute, your y is going to be 60 over 6. 60 over 6. All right, 60 seconds equals to 1 minute. 6 seconds equals to what? How many this thing? That's x times, is it x times 60? No, it's not like that. Sorry. It's going to be 60 over 6. Why? Because we're using 60 seconds equals to 1 minute, and then the heart rate is measured in beats per minute. So now if you add 4-second strip, it's going to be 60 over 4. If it was 10-second strip, you are going to have what? 60 over 10. So that's just basically what you are looking for. And then y equals to 10. So number of R waves in a 6-second strip times 10, that's 8 times 10 equals to 8. If it was a 4-second strip, like I told you, 60 over 4 equals to 15. And if it was 8 R waves that you counted in a 4-second strip, you have 8 times 15 equals to 120. It's not 8 times 6 times 10. It is number of R waves in a 6-second strip times what? 60 divided by that 6-second strip. That's 60 divided by 6. That is 10. The number of R waves 8 times 10. 8. Sorry, I made a mistake here. It's supposed to be 80 beats per minute. This one now, 120 beats per minute. So what did I say in essence? The first thing you do is what? You calculate how many second strip it is. How? You count the number of large boxes in the two. If it is 30 large boxes, 30 times 0.2. We know that you have what, 6 seconds. That's a 6 second strip. Now you now count the number of arrows in that 6 second strip, which is what? Which is 8. If you have 8, oh, 8, you keep it one side plus your 6 second strip. The next is going to be what? That's it. To get your, what will you multiply your 8 by? Heart rate is measured in beats per minute. It's going to be what? 60 over your second strip. That's 60 over 6. That is 10. So your 8 arrows times 60 over the second strip. That's 8 times what? 60 over 6, which is 8 times what? 10, 80. If they say 4 second strip and you add 8 arrow waves, 60 over 4, 15. 8 times 15, 120. That is just basically how to calculate it. If the rhythm is what? Irregular. That is just all you need to know about rate and then rhythm. Now let us continue, because I don't want this portion to be more than an hour. Let's just continue. Let's start slide. No, not even this one. No. Okay. Moving back to reading, we already discussed about a normal sinus reading, which is um what is it called? Which is regular. Now let's move to sinus bradycardia. Bradycardia, as the name implies, means when something is slow. Brady, slow, cardia, heart. It just basically means when the what? When the heart rate is low. And then bradycardia is normal in adults and the old people, not adults, sorry, old people, let's say 65, 70 upward. While tachycardia is normal in children. There are two things here. There's bradycardia and there's tachy. As you can see obviously from this place, tachycardia is the fast heart rate, while bradycardia is the slow heart rate. So bradycardia is normal in old people, while tachycardia is normal in children, babies basically. Okay, now another thing you also need to know is that bradycardia is normal at night because you're not doing anything. Your heart is at rest. Alright. While tachycardia is actually normal if you go through strenuous exercise. Maybe you went for a jog, you ran, you did plate skipping rope, all those things, okay? Because you're stressing yourself and the heart is beating faster. Now another thing you need to know is that I told you before that the normal heartbeat is 60 to 100, right? And now bradycardia is less than 60 beats per minute. Anytime you calculate your rate and it is less than 60 beats per minute, it is what? Bradycardia. And anytime you calculate your rate and it is more than 100, it is what? Tachycardia. And one thing I also did not mention in that irregular reading, when we are calculating rate for irregular reading, instead of going through all of those stress to calculate how many large boxes, how many second strip and everything, all you need to do is usually a 10-second strip. An ECG strip is usually a 10-second strip. So what you're going to do is that 60 divided by 10 is what? 6. Just count the number of arrows and multiply by 6 most of the time. Alright? Most of the time. You can all as a beginner, if you're just starting, you can do well to always go through that method. Alright, just to refresh your memory and in case you just want to teach someone in the future. So now I was saying about, let's go back to this bradycardia and tachycardia. I said if your heart rate is less than 60, you have bradycardia, and if it's more than 100, so tachycardia. Otherwise, your patient is normal. Hmm? The doctor can just give the patient something to just use to bring the heart rate back to normal, and that's not even your problem. Okay, on the ECG stream you're going to see bradycardia in the results part. Bradycardia otherwise normal, tachycardia otherwise normal. Okay, so it's not like something is really wrong with your patient. Okay, now that's just all about brady and tachy. Now let's now move to atrial fibrillation. Let's go back to this ECG here, this document here. Now atrial fibrillation is the type of irregular, it is what? Irregular. That should tell you that there are multiple periods and then the RR interval is what? Is not consistent. Now, it is a type of irregular heart rhythm. Irregular heart rhythm is usually known as arrhythmia, and there are various types of arrhythmias, of course, because atrial fibrillation is just one of the things that can happen to your patient if he or she is having irregular heart rhythm. Alright, person can be having supraventricular tachycardia, he can be having PVCs, can be having different things. This is just one of those types of rhythm. Now, Atrial fibrillation is a type of irregular. At least if something is not regular, it's going to be irregular. And what is making it irregular? How do I know that okay, this person the irregularity is caused by atrial fibrillation? It is caused by supraventricular tachycardia. It is caused by ventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation. Those things. That's why we're learning the rest of these things. Now, to recognize if your patient has atrial fibrillation, first, what is atrial fibrillation? It is what? It is an irregular heart rhythm where the atria is the upper chambers of the heart, they beat very fast and they're out of order. So it is chaotic. Instead of just the SNO sending one signal, the atrial contracting, passing into the ventricles, everything's happening too fast and in chaos. Just like when maybe a all the area boys that used to smoke now and they hear that the police is coming. You know the way everywhere is to be really scattered and disorganized, everybody's just trying to, get a place to stay. That's just example of what is happening in your heart in atrial fibrillation. And I said what happens is I told you that sorry, normally it is what the SNO is going to send one organized heartbeat. But then in AFib, many random signals fire, causing the atria to fibrillate or squeezing properly. As a result, the ventricles will receive chaotic signals and they will beat irregularly. So they are not receiving I'm sending chaotic signals to you. I'm sending just like I use the analogy of throwing or firing a gun at someone. Instead of me to fire one gun at one bullet at a time, person should just die in peace. I'm firing so many guns, or plenty of me are firing different bullets at the same time. So even the person will not even see the space to even die well. Okay, so your ventricles will not be able to squeeze out blood properly. And what would now happen is after that is that they'll not be able to distribute blood. When I'm not receiving enough blood, how do you want me to distribute blood to every other organ in the body? See? So the ECG features of atrial fibrillation, this is like the most important part. It has irregular, like totally irregular rhythm, no pattern at all. There's no distinct P waves. The RR is chaotic and they usually see a wavy baseline. Now let's look at what I mean by atrial fibrillation. This is it. Obviously, you can see that the RR interval is not consistent and also there are multiple P waves here. Alright, so that's just this thing. And so we usually call this kind of multiple P, we call it a wavy baseline. That's just like something that is peculiar or something that is common to this atrial fibrillation. Now let's look at our rhythm. Sorry, our atrial flutter. Atrial flutter is similar to atrial fibrillation, but atrial flutter is irregularly regular, which means that one criteria is regular, the other criteria as well is irregular. Now, for this atrial flutter, now you can see here that this RR interval is consistent, and then there are multiple periods, just like I've told you before. When I used to explain irregularly regular waves. Now let's look at what happened and what is the meaning of what atrial flutter. Now, atrial flutter is a type of irregular. It's a type of regular but fast. Okay, it is regular but it is fast, which is why the P waves are multiple. It starts in the atria, of course. Unlike atrial fibrillation, where the electrical signals are chaotic, atrial flutter has a more organized pattern, but the atria still beats quickly. And let's look at that firing gun now. I'm firing a gun at someone instead of many of us firing at the same time. Yes, we are firing at the same time, right? But then after I fire, he will fire. Then the third person will fire. Then the fourth person is going to fire, but in an organized pattern. If I don't fire, they will not fire. But then I'm firing. We are doing it really, really fast. All right, that is what it is organized, but it is still fast. Now let's the atrial beats very quick as usually 250 to 350 beats per minute. You see that the person of your anybody that has atrial flutter is known to have tachycardia because it's fast. The heart rate is beating very fast. You know there are more than 100, so people can actually have up to 350 beats per minute, and then it's something that is really like serious. So now there are no P waves. There are no distinct P waves or even multiple P waves. What you see is not even P waves sef. See what you see is a sawtooth flutter waves. Let me show you that image again so you can see what I'm trying to say. See now, this flutter, see that it's not distinct P wave like in this place. No, not even here. See something like this. Compared to this, it's just like flutter wave, just like so it has a soft toothed appearance. For the atrial fibrillation, what is common to that one is wavy baseline. While for atrial flutter is sawtooth appearance. Now let's move to ventricular fibrillation. My mouth, you are very, very precious to me. That's why I'm doing this recording again. Honestly, I would have just said people that don't attend class, they will not. That's their problem. But then everybody needs to go back to the recordings because this topic is like really important. And let's just look at the ventricular fibrillation. It is a life-threatening heart rhythm. The ventricles they are shaking. What is supposed to give me food is shaking. By that is supposed to provide for the family is not it's not well. Okay, so the family is not going to have enough food to eat. The system is not going to have enough food to eat. That is why it is really, really life threatening. And it's a medical emergency situation that can lead to sudden cardiac death because the organs are not receiving blood, especially the brain. Okay, it's not receiving blood, so we are just going to die. So now what happens in the heart is that the electrical signal become more chaotic in the ventricles now. They become chaotic and disorganized. Heart loses ability to pump blood. Blood stop flowing to the brain, and when blood stop flowing to the brain, you can collapse, death. You know line here. So then what you need to do also know that there are no P waves, there's no QRS complex, there's no T wave, just irregular, rapid, unnecessary lines. It's just like the heart is twitching. Instead of sometimes our heart actually twitches. There are people that that's a normal thing for them. Their heart twitches instead of opening and closing. So another thing you need to let me show you that diagram again for ventricular fibrillation. So you see now, this is totally stupid and unnecessary. I think we have some images in the slide. Let's just go back to that lesson that day. Oh, no, ventricular fibrillation. Ah, now this is it. Can you see another example of what we call ventricular fibrillation? You can't even differentiate which one is P wave, which one is QRS, which one is T wave. Just unnecessary line. And I bet you this is the same thing that is going to appear on your patient. Okay, these people are usually in CCU or those medical emergency wards. Now let's move on to ventricular tachycardia. Now it's also like atrial flutter and fibrillation. This one is also similar to tachycardia, similar to fibrillation. But ventricular tachycardia is regular. It is fast, originates in the ventricles, but it's regular. Mm? It is fast, originates in the ventricles, but it is regular. Now, the P wave is also absent, but the QRS complex is very, very wide. This one now is that the ventricles will be very, very, very fast. And they don't even have time to be flowing, to be filling themselves with blood. Just like what happened in fibrillation. Alright? And now the QRS complex is usually wide, very, very wide. Why big what is the I'm trying to I'm trying to remember something, but that's by the way sha. So now let's look at what is happening in your ventricular tachycardia. Now let's this is just a perfect to what this is fibrillation, absolutely no shape, no meaning, but at least this one still has meaning. See that it is regular, it has wide QRS complex. If you have to calculate the rate in this one now, just take it from here then to this place, you calculate your rate. So now this is it is usually regular, but this one absolutely see the word grossly irregular, it is so irregular. So this is just the basic diff, and then your QRS is wide. For ventricular tachycardia, the QRS is actually wide. Oh, sorry. So that's just the simple analogy with VTAC. Let's see if I showed you guys. Aha, this is another. See now, see normal reading, see VTAC, and then see ventricular fibrillation. Absolutely, you can see it's so the obvious is very, very obvious. So let's just move to this idioventricular rhythm. For idioventricular rhythm, what is happening is that the rhythm is very, very slow because it originates from the ventricles, not the SA node, not the AV node. And there was that analogy I used for it that the father is supposed to be the one that is supposed to provide for the family. He dies. Then the mother is supposed to be providing for the family. The mother starts providing for the family. She also dies. And then the firstborn is left to provide for the family. Don't you think that they will drink Gary back to back? Maybe when their father was alive, they'll be eating chicken. When their father died, their mom was taking, they'll be eating rice, steady, rice and what? And egg. When their mother too dies, they will not even eat rice again. They'll just be drinking garri and maybe beans. Okay, see, that's how it is. Okay, their food is not going to be as is it coordinated, as efficient as when they had the two people that were supporting the family, because it's not the firstborn's work to provide for the family. All right, not when it's still even growing, someone that's not even fend for himself. And now that's just the simple analogy with the SA node, which is the father, AV node, which is the mother. All right, and then the ventricle, which is the firstborn. Now, that is why it is very, very slow. Why? Because the SA node there, the heartbeat in the SA node, that's the primary pacemaker. I told you that SA node is the natural pacemaker or the primary pacemaker of the heart. It beats at 60 to 100. Normal, it's going to provide where you're going to be feeling fine. The children are going to eat, they'll go out on children's day, all those kind of things. Every node, slower, 40 to 60. Every outing, cancelled. Chicken, turkey, cancelled. Pocket money, cancelled. Eat in the morning, eat in the night. Now for dat ventricles, 20 to 40, the firstborn, they will just be doing 001, 000 interchangeably. You see, with dat analogy, I'm sure you should be able to understand where I'm coming from. Now if both the SNO and heavy node, if they fail, the ventricles that will step in to keep the heart beating. If the mother dies, the father dies, firstborn steps in to what? To keep the family going. And now on the ECG, there's no P wave or there's no T wave. The heart rate is very, very slow. Okay, the rhythm is still regular or what? Slightly irregular. And then the QRS complex is wide because it starts in the ventricles. P wave absent because what? Every node that is in the atria, everything that is in the atria, so what is P wave even looking for there? So now let me show you, to understand, let me show you the example of idioventricular idem, because the rhythm is originating from the ventricles. Just look at this T. That is, you see this M shaped, it's just it's just like a sign to show you that there's something wrong with that ventricles. Now, another thing I also need you to note is that from the name of the disease, from the name of the abnormality, you should be able to know where to look. Which is why I had to teach you guys what P wave represent, QRS complex represent, and what T wave represent that time. P wave, is atrial depolarization. QRS complex is what? Ventricular depolarization. The ventricle is pumping out blood, while T wave is what? Ventricular repolarization. So we are looking at what? Q to what? To T, but more of T. That is why something is actually wrong in this T. See now, this is a normal rhythm. See your T, very fine. The children are eating, everybody is growing. But here now, something is wrong with this T, with this is it M or W shape that is there. Let me show you another one. I think, is it? Yeah. We have wide QRS complex, no P wave, and then wide T wave. Why? Because it is slow. The ventricles are what? They are depolarizing very slow, they are also repolarizing very slow. Wọ́n kàn ṣe smẹ̀smẹ̀ ni, wọ́n kàn ṣe bó ṣe wù wọ́n ni. Ṣé you get? That's just atrioventricular rhythm for you. Let me see if, okay, this one is not atrioventricular rhythm, this one is another thing. I think supraventricular tachycardia. Um Inú ti ń ro mí. So na sopra. I was asking that time what's the meaning of sopra. They were looking at me above until I said above, above. Mo ti gbọ́. This is sopra, as the name implies. Sopra, above. Ventricular, in the ventricles. Tachycardia, fast heart rate. A fast heart rhythm that start above the ventricles, usually in the atria. While after above the ventricles, no, atria no lower am. Alright. So now they are narrow QRS complex, supraventricular, above the ventricles, but there's tachycardia there. Narrow QRS complex, no visible PRP because they can be hidden in the T wave. Let me show you guys. God, my mouth is spinning. I'm not even joking. This is idiot. This is idiot. Now you can see how tiny. This is just the thing that you can use to recognize supraventricular tachycardia because you have to cram it. See the chaos numbers is very, very tiny. And then after chaos you see T, after T you see P. But here the P is embedded in the T. So they're usually embedded or not even, you will not really see them. If you even see them, it's going to be very, very little, very tiny. Okay, let's look at that. I think Aha, look at this one now. See how tiny the PRS complex is. And then look at this so tiny P wave here. But someone that did not know that we are looking for P wave now, we just think that there's no P wave there. So that's just the simple this thing that is with supraventricular tachycardia. Now we'll be moving to asystole. Systole, I told you, is contraction. A means the absence of something. Absence of what? Of contraction. Now let me show you. If there's no contraction, nothing is going to happen. That's why you're seeing a flat line. I don't know if people that watch Korean movies, all those cardiac monitor that you see that the thing will just sound dun dun, that you say the patient is dead and the thing will not just move again. Nothing is happening in the heart. Alright? That is why there's a flat line. But let's look at the theoretical note. It's just complete absence of electrical activity in the heart. Flat line, no heartbeat, cardiac arrest. That's just that about that. Now, premature ventricular complexes. What happens here? There are extra beats that start here in the ventricles. Extra beats that start in the well, I don't want to share. You just want to start in the ventricles. Eh? So you get now. Let me show you what premature ventricular complexes mean. I think I have an image here. My laptop is already. Oh, good. I told you that you will look at from the name and the definition. You know where to look at. Extra bit that starts in the ventricle. P wave. Let's look at QRS and what and T wave. Alright, see that this now. This is a QRS complex which is inverted, and then a see the unnecessary looking T. See the way it's so tall and it's not even supposed to be tall like that. Let me show you the this thing from the now. Look at it here. After your QRS complex, your T wave is inverted, and T wave inversion is a big problem. So you can see your T wave is inverted here. Another thing, I think I had another image. See here? I don't think it's this one. But I think I didn't send it to the class or something. This is not this thing. This one is junctional reading. So this is just see your T wave is inverted, is wide, and it's not supposed to be. That is what extra bit that starts in the ventricles. Premature ventricular complexes. Let's move on to artificial pacemaker. Artificial pacemaker is just a device that is implanted in your heart to help you to function. If the father has died, the mother has died, SAN has died, everyone has died. The first born gan bùkátà ti pa lórí, he has died. Now imagine when someone now say omo people are suffering let me help you to what? To take care of the children that remain after their family the first born is dead, the mother and father is dead. That is an artificial pacemaker. I'm not part of their family, I'm just helping them. Okay? So some people actually like they will tell you that they are using an artificial pacemaker. There are even people that have their their chest, sorry, their heart. You know it's supposed to be on the left. Their own heart is on the right. But they will tell you. And that doesn't mean you should not place the ECG where it's supposed to be. It's still going to be the same placement. Now, for junctional rhythms. Junctional rhythm is when I thought idioventricular rhythm. Father is dead, mother is dead. But here it's only father that is dead, the mother is not dead for junctional rhythm. So the AV node that is the mother will step in as the primary pacemaker of there. But it's not still going to be as efficient. It's going to be beating as 40 to 60, not 60 to 100. That is the normal thing. So it's still going to be slow. And AV node is what atrioventricular. AV node is present in the atria, which is why you have to go and look at your atria and look for what is wrong, because it's in the atria that something is wrong, which is why we have what? An inverted P wave here. For what was it sef? Was it idioventricular? Sorry, premature ventricular complexes, extra bits in the ventricles. Look at where we're having our issues in the ventricles. Inverted T wave, right? Now let's now look at our idioventricular rhythm. That what is happening there? The AV node is dead, this thing is dead, the beat is coming from is the ventricle that is taking over the electrical activity of the heart. Now look at it. Look at where our problem is coming from. That is not what you need to. That's why I'm telling you that know the meaning, because that's when you know where to look for. Now we have what junctional rhythm, every note, atria is taking over. That is why we have to look at our is inverted. Look here too, it's also inverted. So that's just it. And another thing, let me see if there's any other thing we need to note. Junctional rhythm, all this was just notes. It's a backup pacemaker. Yeah. Yes. So that's going to be the end of this recording. It's 15 minutes, thank God. So I need you guys to listen to this thing. The fact that I'm thinking of we have your test on Sunday, and then your exam is going to be maybe Monday, Tuesday. I'm usually busy on Monday. You can do it on Tuesday now, but I'll send freedom to you guys to confirm any day that you guys will be free. Okay? And if there's anyone that won't be going further, with which I hope not, please reach out to me. All right. So that will be the end of this recording class, and I wish you guys a good week. Bye bye.